Sadly, it's time for me to leave Amsterdam. And before I do, let's rank Amsterdam on my Urbanist Snark scale, starting with transportation. Every well-designed city has at least 4 different modes of readily available, cheap transportation. Those are walking, biking, motor vehicles, and trains. Starting off with the walking infrastructure in Amsterdam, it gets a solid A. All of the walking infrastructure can take you from door to door, that is, from your front door to any other front door in the entire city. All of the walking infrastructure is separated. It's separated not only from the biking infrastructure, but also from the motor vehicle infrastructure. Unlike most cities, Amsterdam is known for having its raised crosswalks, and they are ubiquitous. In Amsterdam, there's plenty of sidewalk space for the majority of trips that you're going to take, and due to the mixed-use building fabric, most of what you need is within walking distance, making Amsterdam highly walkable. Moving on to the biking infrastructure in Amsterdam, the biking gets an A. Most of, if not all, of Amsterdam's biking infrastructure is separated from its walking and motor vehicle infrastructure. There is ample space within those bike paths or within that biking infrastructure for you and multiple other people to enjoy biking. And unlike any other place I've ever been, Amsterdam has door-to-door biking infrastructure. You can walk outside your front door, any front door, in the entirety of Amsterdam and find ample biking infrastructure to any other front door, period. The motor vehicle infrastructure in Amsterdam also gets an A. It is, as with most cities, a door-to-door infrastructure, meaning that every door is connected to every other door with motor vehicle infrastructure. I found the infrastructure to be fairly well maintained. It was safe. There were plenty of motor vehicle options, including plenty of buses out and about and available for you, as well as ample space for cars. And the congestion levels, while difficult at times, was not the typical stop-and-go traffic you're used to in North America. The train infrastructure in Amsterdam gets an A. The trains are relatively door-to-door. While they're not as ubiquitous as the motor vehicle or biking infrastructure, for the most part, you have train access from the door of every house to the door of every other house. The trains were frequent, although not as frequent as London. All of the trains were incredibly safe. In fact, safety in Amsterdam was of the highest possible standard. There is almost no city on earth as safe as Amsterdam. There were plenty of train options, which included trams that were more local and slower. There were metro options, underground and subways, and there was above ground train options for you to travel throughout the entirety of the Netherlands. If there's one drawback to the train system in the Netherlands, it's that it is not 24/7. One thing I will say, though, is that due to the fact that the biking infrastructure is so useful in Amsterdam, there is 24-hour activity in the city. Just because the trains aren't running doesn't mean people aren't commuting. Now moving on to the urban fabric. I gave the mixed-use building infrastructure in Amsterdam a B. While the buildings themselves are very nice and well kept, the proximity to goods and services was a bit further away, especially if you're trying to use their walking infrastructure. However, due to the fact that the biking infrastructure is so robust, it makes those distances seem much shorter. The single-family home infrastructure, I gave a C. While there are quite a few single-family homes and residences in the city of Amsterdam, I found them to be more around the periphery. There wasn't much near the center of the city. Unlike London, which I was actually really surprised at how much single-family inventory was centrally located. Now let's talk about Amsterdam's overall convenience score. Amsterdam's overall convenience score is an A. And that score is made up of the different transportation and mixed-use building infrastructure that's available to you in Amsterdam. Overall, the transportation convenience score is an A. no matter which way you want to access the city, whether it's by bus or train or bike, you're going to have an easy time of getting around. Amsterdam has a lot of infrastructure for you to choose from. Now let's break down the transportation options individually. And I combine the walkable and mixed-use building infrastructure and urban fabric together into one score. The walkable mixed-use score is a B. While the walking infrastructure is ample, door-to-door, widespread, and incredibly convenient, well-maintained, and so on, the mixed-use building infrastructure is good, but it's not great. It certainly isn't an A. Things are just a little bit further apart in Amsterdam when you compare it to places like London or Paris, and especially Paris. Moving on to the busing infrastructure, it gets a C. While it has wonderful coverage throughout the city and its frequency times are excellent, it still doesn't quite cover everything you need to access door to door, and it doesn't come around quite as frequently as you would like. And this is especially compared to London. The convenience of the train infrastructure in Amsterdam gets a B. I actually was surprised by how good the trains were in Amsterdam, so I don't want you to think that it's not good train service. But as far as the convenience is concerned, the stops aren't quite as ubiquitous as they could be, and the trains don't come around quite as often as they could. The frequency of the train schedule could be improved drastically. However, I will say this. The train infrastructure in Amsterdam is widespread. There is quite a lot of it, and almost every place in the whole of the Netherlands is connected by train. So if you want to travel throughout the whole country, train is easily the best option. Moving on to the biking infrastructure convenience score, it obviously gets an A+. And I don't use A+s very often, if at all. But I have to say, the biking infrastructure in Amsterdam, the way that they've built it, the quality of the build, the ease of use, the maintenance, the door-to-door capability, the fact that you can also tour you could travel through the entirety of the Netherlands just by using their biking infrastructure. This is a game changer. When I said before that the walkable mixed-use infrastructure got a B, that's only because the biking infrastructure is an A+. Most people don't walk because those shops or goods and services that are just a little bit further away than you're comfortable walking are a breeze and are simple and fast and efficient when you're on your bike. So I just can't stress it enough how implementing bike infrastructure the way Amsterdam has done completely changes the whole dynamic of the city and increases your quality of life to be a standard that we'll never probably know in North America, but it's life-changing. It's game-changing. So, what is the Urbanist Snark ranking for Amsterdam? It is, of course, an A. Now, the most pressing questions. Would I live in Amsterdam? The answer is absolutely yes, I would. However, it's worth noting that Amsterdam currently is below sea level, which means that if you're looking to live somewhere long-term, Amsterdam may not be a good fit for you, especially if you're interested in acquiring real estate. As crafty and technically savvy as the Dutch are, I don't think they're going to overcome the ocean. The ocean will eventually beat Amsterdam. They will not be able to keep it at bay indefinitely. And those days where we lose cities to the ocean may be happening much sooner than you think. So it's just something to keep in mind. Would I live in Amsterdam? Yes. Would I buy real estate in Amsterdam? No. But I would rent there indefinitely. Is Amsterdam better than your crappy United States urban hellscape? Yes, absolutely it is. In fact, it's head and shoulders above anything you're going to find anywhere else in the world, save maybe for Japan. Is it the best in Europe? Yes, it is. Amsterdam is a top-tier city in every aspect: quality of life, happiness, safety, transportation, building stock, everything. If you love to live life, Amsterdam is a spectacular place to do it. Should you move to Amsterdam now? Yes, you should. If you have the means, if you are able, you should definitely move to Amsterdam as soon as possible. You should start living the best life possible as soon as you can. And I encourage all of you to literally, I'm not being hyperbolic here, move to Amsterdam. It's a fantastic place. I don't know if you can tell, but I've probably lost 5 pounds. And it's because since we last talked, I have gotten incredibly sick. I got so sick. And now I haven't been sick since COVID, since 2019. And most of that is due to the fact that I wore a mask everywhere for a year and a half. Go figure. Wear a mask and you don't get sick. But alas, in Amsterdam, I got deathly ill. Shakes, shivers. I think I had a fever, but I was taking large quantities of ibuprofen. Stomach cramps, diarrhea, which is still my problem, we'll get to that. Lethargy, intense body, muscle, joint, everything pain. So I had just this horrible body pain. I was so sick for 4 days I could barely move. All I could do was basically get up, shit, which I must have done at one point probably 6 times a day, and then lay down, drink mineral water. I would keep getting these sweats. So I would get really, really cold, shivering cold, very, very uncomfortable. And then I would just start pouring sweat. Since I got sick to the time till now has been about 8 days. So I've lost 8 days of my vacation. Although I must say I'm not terribly disappointed. I am disappointed, but I'm not terribly disappointed. Part of living here was trying to see what it would be like to live here. That's why I'm here. What would it be like to live in Europe? And I must say that it is far easier than living in the United States by so much. It came time to leave Amsterdam, and I was actually pretty sad about that because I only got about 3 days in Amsterdam before I got sick. My symptoms just started to break. I just started to feel comfortable enough to leave the house. And so I did. I got some meds, and I also did a couple of practice walks. But then it was time to go. And so I went. And really the key here, the key difference between here, Europe, and the United States is ease of travel, ease of movement. People in the United States like to talk about freedom. United States is the only place with any freedom. Well, that's not true. In so many different senses of the word, your ease of movement in Europe is very noteworthy. Now, I was sick, like disgustingly, horribly sick. And at any moment, I could shit my pants. That was a real problem, a real danger that I was in. And it was so simple to walk to the metro, to get on the subway, to get to the center city, where I then caught the Eurostar, which was absolutely fantastic. There's a really nice coffee shop / restaurant, whatever, in Amsterdam Central. So I was able to go to this. It's a historic place. There's a funny parrot named Elvis. And I spent my time there. It was very comfortable, and it was very warm. The wait staff wasn't terribly friendly, but they weren't rude. They just were busy. And they're very frank, which is great, but you don't, as an American, you're not quite as used to the frankness from wait staff or from people that are serving you. But after a moment of, oh, that's weird, you get very used to it. And people of Amsterdam, just in general, are very frank, and I really appreciated that. I really wish I had been able to spend more time amongst the people and in the different neighborhoods. That was something I was planning on doing. I did some of that, but I wasn't able to do all of it. I did get one trip to the outlet mall, which is way out of town. And of course, I took my bike. and it was so simple. At Amsterdam Central, I was able to spend some time with Elvis the parrot, and then my train came, and then I went on the train. And boarding, everything, seating, everything, using the bathroom once I was on the train was so seamless and so simple, and it's not disturbing or anxiety inducing at all. It's the most relaxing situation you can be in. Now, I need you to imagine for a minute that you have shit that you have shit every couple of hours for the last 4 days, and in the middle of the night, wakes you up, and so on. And you have been deathly ill, and you're going through sweats, and you're very uncomfortable, and now you have to travel from one country to another. Or in the case of the United States, this would be kind of like traveling from Boston to Washington, D.C. And you get to your mode of travel. I want you to think about how that would work on a plane, how uncomfortable you would be, how outnumbered you are as far as people to bathroom ratio, how difficult it is to get up and down the aisles and so on. And by the way, when it's time to go, in my case, it's time to go. I've got seconds. And now imagine that you're on a train car that is fairly sparsely populated. It's not crowded like a plane at all. But it's not empty. There are people in every seat, but there really aren't that many people per car. There's a lot of space. There's the way the Eurostar is set up is very, very accommodating and comfortable. I mean, it just could not have been an easier and better experience, especially for somebody who is sick. Exiting my train, getting to my apartment, which is what I'm in right now, was quite easy. And I've been very happy ever since.
Ear seduction.